Thanks. Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show right here at 1130 The Tiger. Pleased to be joined by the voice of the LSU Tigers and a man I'm happy to call a friend, Chris Blair, getting ready for this season of LSU Tiger football. Some new things to talk about. We'll get into that in a moment. But a happy birthday? Is that what we're dealing with, Blair?
Yeah. I mean, the timing couldn't be better. You know, we're all a little busy this week trying to get ready for the first game. And
sure.
They called me down from the studio because there was something very important we had to discuss. And of course, hilarity ensues. So, yeah, sorry. The party had ended, though. I just was trying to get out of the room. So
yeah,
no problem. We're all good.
I understand. But, yeah, happy birthday, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, the good news is you and I are very close in age, but I look so much younger than you. It's not even funny, you know.
There's no question about it.
Hey,
although I think the secret is the facial hair. So I think maybe I need to work on that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. A lot of guys who either and look, I'm my hairline's moving backwards. So guys either shave their head or have the hairline going back. A lot of times they like to go with the beard to try to kind of offset it. So maybe it's a look you should try.
Look, I can't grow it up here, but I can grow it down here.
Right. Like I'm still a virile man, everyone. Look at me.
Hey, I'm good with that. I'm the only thing I'm against, and I will say it publicly.
Okay.
I stand firmly on this. No skullet. Like I've seen a lot of those where the hairline's literally just above the nape of your neck, and then you comb it back over.
Yes.
That's a no-no. Just go ahead and get the blades out and shave.
Yeah, well, that's what Gene Cady fell into. Kind of had ill health, and he finally let go of the comb over. And I was like, "You look fine, Coach. Like you don't look bad. It's okay. Like just don't hang on to the wisps that are hanging up there. Just get rid of them. Move along.
Real funny story. When I was growing up in Kentucky, we had a family friend. We would have a summer 4th of July barbecue. He was probably at the time in his late mid 40s, and he would get into the swimming pool, and you couldn't get within 6 feet of him because literally he grew his hair long. So if he went out, he would have long hair, the typical, party in the back.
Sure.
But he would comb it from the back over, so it looked like he actually had, he had hair on top. But there was so much hair product there that any water and it would have been a hair disaster.
Yeah, that's not good. Apparently, yesterday, Chris, Kim Mulkey came up to speak at the Indy Bowl kickoff dinner, which you've been a part of before, and I told her that it was raining up here, and she said, "Well, sugar melts, so I got to be careful when I'm out there." So, I guess
she was talking about you.
No. She was talking about herself.
Oh, okay.
No. Look, it was great though. We had a great time. It's always good to see Coach up here. All right, so obviously a little transition period here going from Ed Ogeron now to Brian Kelly. Just kind of give us an idea. Obviously, it's always tough. And by the way, I told Mulkey she's the veteran of the Big Four now. She's the longest tenured coach, and that's 2 years of all the Big Four that are there. You obviously have been there for a bit. What is that like, and what's that been like for you, not only turning over one coaching staff, but turning over so many different coaching staffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the job. I was thinking the other day about all the new coaches that we work with, and it's not just, the Big Four. There's been a lot of turnover, a lot of change here at LSU, and, I don't know that that's any different from – you could probably pick out any major Power 5 school, and there's going to be a handful that have maybe one sport that has a long-term tenured coach. It's just kind of the nature of the business you're in. And, I think coaches put it best. It's high risk with high reward as far as, job safety is concerned. But, as far as the transition goes, everybody that I work with, from Brian Kelly to his staff, to his support staff, to Coach McMahon, who happens to have an office next door to me. I see him every day, saw him this morning. These guys and their staffs are really, really impressive. I mean, there's a reason these people are able to get to the levels they're at.
Yeah.
Kim Mulkey, a Hall of Famer, Kim Mulkey, a basketball superstar that's done it all. I mean, it's not happenstance. It's not luck. It's because they have a process. They've taken things from their mentors. They've learned, and they've applied it to their craft. And, No, that's really the way it is. So it's an exciting time to be at LSU because, you kind of can feel the excitement in each sport. Talk to each coaching staff. We had the kickoff banquet at Tiger Stadium about a month ago and had a chance to visit with golf and visit with tennis and all of the sports. There's this kind of unified synergy that everything here at LSU is headed in the right direction. So as somebody who just gets to ride along on the coattails, color me excited.
Y'all changed. Obviously, we run the coaches show here on 11:30 The Tiger, and y'all changed the format. By the way, that'll be tomorrow for the coaches show. Y'all changed the format a little bit. No call-ins, no people on site asking questions. Which, as a host of a coaches show, I am 100% for. But as the listener of a coach's show, I'm 100% against, just because I want someone to sing a song to Brian Kelly, Chris. Like, that's just all it is. I need somebody to get up there and give Coach Kelly something in some absolute Cajun dialect that he's never heard in his entire life, and he has to ask him to repeat the question twice. That's just what I want. But give me some idea of what that's been like as you transition to a coach it's different in his approach and how he wants to do those things.
I've seen a lot of things inside TJ Ribbs in 7 years. I think one of the first shows of 17, we went to commercial break, and of course they have a fire pit in TJ Ribbs. And when we went to break, our commercials were cut out, and suddenly house music came on, like a Louisiana Saturday night, and the wait staff picked up the spit and paraded it through the restaurant, pig and all, apple and all. And so I've seen that. I've seen fans bring some unique gifts, from crawfish pot to a pretty impressive shrimp boat that was a model that was probably 8 feet long and maybe 1.5 feet wide, and very detailed. It was a different type atmosphere, almost more pep rally than let's say football show.
Right.
Which again, I'm good with either way. I'm not. It's not my show.
Yeah.
I'm there to just get us on time and get us out on time. That's basically the way I look at that. And with Coach Kelly, and one of the things I loved about it, when meeting with him and his staff early on in the spring, it was, hey, what is it that we do? And why do we do it that way? And have we ever thought about maybe doing this? Have we thought about adding this? So, again, it wasn't as if they came in and said, look, this is how it's going to be. It was just, hey, can we just take an open look, fresh look at everything that we do that's associated with the program that promotes LSU football to the fans, to potential student athletes, to anybody who happens to stumble across a Thursday night radio show, and see where we can add some things. And, coming up starting next week, Coach Kelly's going to be interviewing former players. It serves two purposes. It gives him an opportunity to get to know some of the great players who laid the foundation, helped lay the foundation,
right,
for what he's in charge of now. And it also kind of updates us on what those guys are doing. So, it was a conglomerated group of people who basically said, how can we maybe change this, not for the sake of changing it, but maybe to try something new. So I guess, Patrick, at the end of the day, inside TJ Ribbs, it's going to be a little more subdued, a little more X's and O's. But I got to believe, for somebody who's listening and their true intent is to hear from the LSU football coach about their favorite team and who they're playing that weekend, I think the content of what you hear is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
We'll see how the atmosphere grows. But to think that Coach Kelly doesn't have a sense of humor would be a misnomer, because he certainly does.
Yeah.
And I think as he and I become more comfortable, again, I think that'll start to come out a little bit. But I enjoyed last week. He's very open. He answers every question. He's thoughtful when he answers them. And, hey, look, I only had to take 24 questions, and I think I only got through about 17, and we filled 48 minutes of content.
There you go. That's what it's all about. Like I said, from a hosting perspective, it's absolutely the right way to do it. Just from a listener's perspective, I just want the chaos, just personally. That's what I'm here for. Hey, all right, number one, because you're not Craig Way at Texas, do you have a depth chart?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That Steve Sarkisian is famously not giving depth charts this year, which is don't even get me started on that. I hope Craig Way has one. I haven't asked him, but I hope he has one. But the most pertinent question is, do you know who the starting quarterback is?
No, I do not.
Okay. So you're going to be surprised like the rest of us when they walk out on the field.
Like we say in this business, stay tuned. We'll all find out. I imagine with kickoff at 6:44 Central, depending on who wins the toss, probably around 6:46, 6:47, we may know, maybe a little later than that. But, it's true. And he said this on a number of occasions when asked about the quarterback position. This week, he made it more of a tactical reason, which, I think wasn't something – I didn't get the sense, Patrick, it was something that they said all along.
Right.
I think it started to, I think they got in a room and started thinking, okay, wait a minute. They played a game. They've got all the kinks out as far as getting people on and off the field, personnel groupings, the little things that maybe week one you don't get everything taped down. They've got that, plus they've been able to get out there and actually play a game, hit another team. Now, we have an advantage that we've seen their guys on film, and Florida State's like everybody else in the country. They got a number of guys who weren't in Tallahassee last year, whether that be freshmen or obviously the transfer portal. So you've got that film now. There's a lot of question marks that Coach Norvell and Florida State have about LSU. You got to go find out what Denbrock likes to do as the OC. You got to go back to different schools and see his tendencies. When it comes to some of the skill players, again, 69 players from a year ago are not on this team for LSU. So now you got to go look at what they did at McNeese, what they did at this. So another complication, I believe, for the Seminoles, although they will prepare for both, is why come out and tell everybody who your quarterback's going to be? And secondly, Patrick, being at practice and taking in the scrimmages, when he talks about how close that battle has been and about the division of reps and about the days that were great for this guy or not so great for this guy, it really has been, again, to the layman, myself, pretty even. So I imagine when Coach tells you, hey, it's been a close race, and over the weekend, this past weekend, they kind of made a decision. I think really it's nice to know it's the big story grabber. It'll get a lot of clicks.
Sure.
In this day and age, but at the end of the day, I don't know that it really matters.
All right, so talking to Chris Blair, voice of the LSU Tigers, give us we'll kind of just you don't need to bear down or bore into it too deeply, but because I know everyone that's listening to this is typically is an LSU fan, kind of give us what you're excited about offensively and defensively to see with this team.
Well, I think it's the receivers, and that shouldn't come obviously to surprise to anybody, just because. You think the guys from 2019, I'm not comparing this to them. That's a high bar. But what I mean by that is think of where the drop-off was if Terrace Marshall, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Thad Moss at tight end, when those guys weren't on the field. They were on the field most of every snap, most of every game. The thing about this receiving core is you've got a couple of those potential NFL superstars in the future. Starts with Keishawn Boutte, of course, but how deep they go. And, Coach Kelly's talked about that it's a good challenge. He smiles when he says it, but it's a good challenge to try to figure out, how do you get all of these guys the due reps because they all can make plays. Brian Thomas can make plays. Chris Hilton can make plays. We all know Malik Neighbors can make plays. Jeray Jenkins was incredible and instrumental towards the back end of last season, certainly in the Texas A&M game. And then, you got Keishawn Boutte, and, you got superstar Jack Bash. So you see how deep that receiving group is. I think that's the one to watch. And, again, Coach Denbrock and Coach Kelly at times have gone with two tight end sets. They typically go with a single back, but I wouldn't rule out twin backs at times. So, again, where are you going to put all these receivers? And, by the way, you got a pretty good freshman tight end in Mason Taylor, who looks like he should be on an NFL roster right now when he comes out to practice. So I think it's going to be fascinating about how many playmakers they have and the defenses for the opposing team trying to figure out, okay, we know how difficult it was to pick our poison in 2019 against that trio of receivers. How are we going to pick our poison with this group if we give the quarterback time to make plays.
Yeah.
Of course, that is the big question.
Sure.
We'll have to see how it plays out. But I think the receiving core, and then real quickly, I think the offensive line, the experiment that Coach Kelly and his staff have done in the offseason as recently as a week ago on finding the right guy. They've got it was put best earlier in the summer by one of the media members that this group of offensive linemen for LSU, the difference in the last couple of years is we don't know yet where their ceiling is, but we do know where the floor is. And you've got people that you can use. You got 6, 7, 8 guys that you could try in those positions. And the fact that they've been experimenting in, moving this guy to tackle, this guy guard, Dellinger again, kind of was, as Coach Kelly said, the linchpin and nailing down the center job. But, I think both quarterbacks, to go back to that, are good. They both can make plays. They both can win for LSU. And if the offensive line gives them time to make those plays, I think your receiving core, you got to be thrilled if you're a QB that that's who your targets are, because there's going to be a lot of them.
On the opposite side of the ball, obviously the defensive front gets a lot of the Mason Smith and crew get a lot of the press, but I'm most fascinated by the DBs. You go to the transfer portal hard. You get SEC guys that come in at some of those defensive back positions. What are you looking at defensively?
It's one of those that it has evolved, Patrick, over the last month. I think everybody agreed, say in July, coming off of last year's team, that, boy, you lose the 2 corners, one player to the transfer portal, one to, the NFL draft. You've got to replace your outside guys. Safety was kind of by committee last year, some due to injury, some to guys just not being able to perform at the level needed. And then suddenly over the last 2 to 3 weeks, when you talk or hear Coach Kelly talk to the media, he's talking about how Sage Ryan has been phenomenal. Who's kind of a nickel. We'll play some nickel. Major Burns has been not only a leader, but has improved his play at safety. You're starting to hear about him smiling and being more confident about the guys they got outside. And again, some of that, as you said, with Jarek Bernard-Converse transferring in for Oklahoma State, suddenly there's a lot of talk about what Converse can do at cornerback for this team. So suddenly something that many thought may be the biggest weakness of this team may not be the total strength of the defense, but when you compare that and add that to a very, I think, talented and deep defensive front, suddenly all of a sudden the play of the front can aid the back end of the defense. And if you're comfortable with what your safeties and corners have done during preseason camp, then all of a sudden I think maybe it's not as big a weakness as we thought it would be. And, of course, we'll find out when live fire begins Sunday.
Absolutely. By the way, you mentioned 2 backs in the backfield. I think Jacob Hester, just a wave of euphoria crashed over him when you mentioned that. So somewhere in Baton Rouge, I think the bat signal went up for a potential fullback maybe being in the backfield. He's excited. I know that. Hey, as you move into the season, obviously this is going to be a very fascinating year for LSU. Do you go in with expectations, or do you just go in saying we're going to see what happens? I don't know if this is a 4-win, a 12-win team. I'm just going to go in and see what happens, or do you go in with some thoughts that, hey, I think this may be 7, 8, 9 wins, whatever the case may be?
I think a lot of Tiger fans listening right now might agree with me here that after 2019, a lot of us, myself included, thought, we figured this out. Now we know what a championship caliber team looks like. We can gauge everything from this moment on. We can, again, prognosticate what this season will be like. After that trip to Los Angeles last year, you can throw all of that out the window. And I was talking with Jeff Colhane, who is the voice of the Seminoles, first-year voice of Florida.
Just got there,
talking to him earlier today, and he said, what do you think about the team? And I said, well, I think the team is talented. I think this coaching staff is spectacular. I think their process and the attention to detail is second to none. When I go to the football building, anybody I run into or see down the hall, everybody's moving with a purpose. Not a lot of waste, not a lot of inefficiency. I say all that to tell you that I thought there was no way in the world LSU would lose to UCLA because, again, I was looking through the lens of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
We are here. We will simply reload. Now, of course, 2020 and COVID kind of threw a wrench into some of that. But that's the way I would answer your question.
Yeah.
So from now on, no. I have no guesstimations, expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got good players. Everybody's spending a ton of money. They've got great coaches. They've got facilities. And, I think, coaches say it all the time, and I know it's coach speak, but for me, I take it one game at a time. I look at Florida State, watched them on film from last week. How much could you judge from the Duquesne matchup? I don't know.
Yeah.
But you can tell when good is good. You can tell when a running back knows how to run with the football, and they got three pretty good. So, I don't put any guesstimates on 6 wins, 7 wins, 10 wins, because, frankly, getting any win is pretty hard these days in Power 5 football.
He's Chris Blair, the voice of the LSU Tigers. Be on the lookout for his new line of manly beards that will be coming out soon to make all of you that may have a little challenge on top to feel a little more manly by the stuff you can grow at the bottom of your head. Chris, obviously, brother, always a pleasure to chat with you. Have a great first game, great season. We'll check back in as the season progresses. You
got it, man. It's good to talk to you again. One real quick question.
Yes.
Last time you went without a beard?
It was actually when I was doing the Tim Brando show. I had a goatee back then. Okay. And then after the Brando show ended, I was like, I'm just going to grow the whole beard. And I have it. That was what, Rogers, 14, 15, something like that. So probably 8 or 9 years now with the beard. And I love it.
Hey, Rogers,
I'm a fan. Get on the microphone, Rogers.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chris.
Rogers, if he were to shave, not a goatee, I mean completely clean shaven, would he look 9 years old?
Almost, yes. Absolutely. You nailed that right on the head, my friend. He would look like a baby.
I've already been told I have a small pie hole, Chris, so that happened today, as a matter of fact. Rogers told me that. So, yeah, also this beard covers up some chin or lack thereof. So, I got a weak chin, so I got to cover it up with something, brother.
There you go. Well, you're looking good.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Y'all have a good call, and we'll catch up with you soon, bub.
You got it, guys.
All right. Chris Blair, the head coach of the LSU